Yeah, so you caught us on a really good day. So we have some plants that we need to process down and make some teas with. And so this is kind of how things come in. Is I harvested this out actually by my parents' house, and this is called Leadplant. And a lot of people have this in their gardens and things like that because when these flower, they have gorgeous dark flowers on them. But this is also a sacred medicine for the Lakota and Dakota people, and specifically Lakota, because we're considered buffalo people. And when we are across the river, which we're now across the Missouri River, this is Dakota territory. And so we're Buffalo people and Dakota people are what we call berry pickers. So they more harvest the berries and the plants and things like that. But this is a sacred medicine for us. It's used in a lot of our products. It's used in salves. It's a really good treatment for deep rashes, eczema, psoriasis. It's really good for tattoo salve. Helps with tattoo drying and helping it heal correctly. But as a sacred medicine, we use it a lot in our teas. We use it in our smokables because a long time ago, a lot of these plants were best used smoked. Smoking now has such a bad rap because of tobacco and vaping and all those things. But a long time ago, we used to use different plants and different combinations of plants for like headache relief, for anxiety, for stress, for coughs and colds and lung health. And so this was a sacred medicine for us because we would use it in our pipe ceremonies to call the buffalo. As buffalo people, we used everything that we had was from the land. And so we would call the buffalo, and when the buffalo would smell the burning of this plant, they would come, and then they would select a buffalo that would be given to the people. And then that buffalo would come out, and then our hunters would shoot that animal, and then we would let the other buffalo come around and mourn. And then after they were done mourning, then our women would go down and they would harvest the buffalo. And this is the plant that we would use in that buffalo ceremony.
That is so interesting. What are some of the other things you have?
And so I have mullein, and I harvested this out actually from our parking lot. And so mullein, we take that down and we let it dry out fully, and then we grind it down into this. And so we hang this one upside down until it's fully dry and it's really brittle. And then we take the leaves and then we crumple it down so that we can use it in our teas, our tonics, our smokables. And then we run over to here to our elderflower that I harvested a few weeks ago. And we just carefully take it off the plant. And then we get it all off the plant. And we take our sumac leaves and we crunch these down. These we just hand crunch because they're so brittle and they're so easy. And so I go out and I harvest these leaves right before they flower. And so that's where the strongest medicine part of it is, or the strongest potency that they have is right before they flower. Because once they start to flower, then all the energy of the plant goes into that flower. And so I want the strongest part of the medicine. And so we take these all together and we grind them down, we process them, and then we put them in a bowl and we mix them for teas. And so we have a base would be mullein, because we're going to use this for lung health. And then there would be an even amount of the lesser ones, and that would make the recipe.
So how did you figure out how much of everything to put together?
Trial and error. But then I'm aware of how these plants work and how to use them. And so when I make recipes, whether it comes from a family need or a customer request, I think about it for a long time and like what plants would be best for this person and then or for this purpose. And then from there, I base my recipe off of that. So if it's majority just for like upper respiratory infections, for lung health or something like that, then I'm going to use the base of mullein, even though it's a really bitter plant. But then I'm going to add some elderflower in there for flavor to kind of help with that bitterness. And so recipes are built for flavor and for purpose.
So how does a person like me use this if I buy it?
We blend it all together and then we sell it as a loose leaf. So you would use a tea infuser and you would use it by cup. And so you would take about a teaspoon or a tablespoon worth, and then you would pour hot water over that. You would let it steep for 3 to 5 minutes, and then you would drink that.
What are these roots, it looks like?
So these are what we call bear roots or osha root. And so this is a spiritual medicine that we use. And this one comes from over in the mountain areas. And this is a root that we use. We don't use the flower, we don't use the plant, we just use the root. And if you can smell it, it has a very fragrant smell. And so we use this one for sore throats as well. So it's a spiritual medicine, but it's also something that we can use for sore throats, coughs, and colds.
How long do you store some of these until you can use them?
So as soon as they are dry and we process them down, they last in this stage, they last for about 2 to 3 years. And then once you turn it into a product, then depending on the product that you make, whether it's a tea, a tincture, a salve, that has a different shelf life once it's made into a product.
How many products do you make?
Almost 200.
Wow.
Yeah. We don't have any magical machines or any magical processes. We use everyday things like crock pots and roasters. We use our hands, we use blenders, everyday kitchen items.
How often do you make a batch?
About every other week. I have trained in 2 makers. I have had to take all of the recipes out of my head, and I had a staff member, Emily, take them out of my head. Actually, she followed me through these processes, because when she asked me to write down the recipes, I said, I don't know. And so she had to learn how to make all my recipes, and then she figured out the portions of them and how she wrote down the recipes. Because that's not how my brain works. I can't write it down because I don't know, but I can tell you I use that bowl and I use that cup and I use that crock pot, and that's just how much it comes out. And so she followed me for about 1.5 years, and then she wrote down the recipes as I made things.
You sound like my mom when she was cooking. Oh, this is about the right amount, and you put it right in. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. When I was doing some research, I saw that you have what's called a buffer bar. Mm-hmm. What is that?
So the buffer bar, it has ground nutmeg in it, and it's just really to help exfoliate the skin. And so it's kind of like what we called, a buffer. So it helps take off the dead skin, and it helps, clear off the dead skin so that your skin is a little bit smoother now.
Megan, where do you source all of your plant materials?
A lot of it we have harvested around here, or I have harvested it around here. And then once I am at my capacity for harvesting, then we have to reach out to other people that ethically source our plants, because ethically and sustainably sourced is really important, because we don't want to over harvest our area, because then that deeply impacts our ecosystem that we have. And so when I feel like I've met my limit around here, then I reach out to other people, whether it's other farmers or other people that do this for a living, and we make sure that they are sustainably and ethically sourcing our products.